those people are not trying to corrupt your children. Those people are just trying to live their lives. It's the people who are trying to corrupt all of us that I really care about. All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. So there is a streamer named Gothix. We've covered her a little bit before, and she, mostly does live streams, so I don't get an opportunity to do the daily videos on her. But she does put out some shorter stuff, and that's what we're going to be covering today.
How did we go from this to this?
Haram!
And how did we start with this and somehow ended up with this?
Good question.
It's always baffling to me when I talk to people who have valid criticisms about how hypersexualized and perverted the LGBTQIA plus community has become. But what's interesting is that a lot of these people fail to really consider how their allyship or participation has contributed to a lot of the problems we see today. There's almost this.
It's not just about, this is specifically why, when we talk about this stuff, I differentiate between the people who are pushing gender ideology and stuff like that and individuals who happen to have a different sexual orientation or individuals who happen to have a different gender identity. We can get into, whether or not they're right or wrong or whatever. That's a different conversation. But those people are not trying to corrupt your children. Those people are just trying to live their lives. It's the people who are trying to corrupt all of us that I really care about.
Sense that people want to distance themselves from a lot of the problems. Oh, that's not us. Well, yeah, I didn't co-sign on that. I was okay with the first few letters, but now all this other stuff, I'm not okay with it. I've been thinking about this.
We hear that a lot. We hear that, think of gays against G rumors. They are really not a fan of this ideology push that has been going on, and they are standing up to fight back, and I really appreciate it. And if you do too, you will definitely find a home at the Indian Jesus Discourse server where the party never ends. That's right, 24/7. We're in there hanging out, cool conversations, and after every single live stream, we go in there for an after panel where you're not just stuck behind your keyboard, but you're actually on screen with me and everybody else. You can come up if you want to. You don't have to. Either way, it's a grand old time. Come and join us.
This topic a lot, and I have a theory here that I want to share with all of you guys. My hope with this video is that it brings conversation. Maybe after watching this, you'll walk away with a new perspective, something different to think about that you didn't consider before. Because what I've been seeing so far, and what's very frustrating to me, is that whenever difficult conversations surrounding the criticisms around the LGBT community come up, there's this instant desire to shut down the conversation. Nope, don't want to talk about that, not going to consider it. And to me, that is the epitome of emotional thinking, if I could even call it thinking.
If you can call it thinking. It's all based on emotion. There's no logic, and even worse, there's no principle. There's no morality. It's just what feels good right now. What do I want now? That's their entire being. Everything that they are is just happiness now for me.
You're just going for the answer that sounds good, that feels good. Ideas have consequences.
So do beliefs. Ideas or beliefs have consequences because they inform your actions.
And if you don't think through your ideas,
or your beliefs,
going to end up with problems that we're seeing now. So again, I hope that people approach this video with an open mind to really consider the points that I'm making, as opposed to homophobic. Listen, boo-boo, you can call me homophobic all you want. That's not going to change my life, all right? I did a video not too long ago talking about the Overton window, and I'll put the link in the description if you haven't checked it out. But
if you're not familiar, the Overton window is basically just the like where on the political spectrum, like if the whole political spectrum is here, what is like normal? So we're, you can move to the left or to the right, and things that, thinking that a man and a woman were different things, that used to be within the Overton window, and now it's sliding very quickly out of it.
The Overton window is a method in which you can shift public perception little by little over the span of, sometimes it could be very short, but sometimes it'll take like maybe 10 years to really shift public perception. An example of this is that if you look back in history, homosexuality wasn't something that was normalized to the extent that it is now. When I say normalized, what I mean by that is propping something up that's abnormal, but then claiming it's the new normal. If we're being honest and having a logical discussion about this particular topic, I think it's fair to say that men and women were designed to be together. This is how we reproduce. This is how we keep civilization going. And you
anybody want to disagree with that? I think we should all be on the same page so far.
Can't naturally do that if you have a same-sex couple. Now, how do you shift that Overton window? Aside from what I discussed in that video, if you have a civilization of people who don't think critically and they react emotionally, they're just going to go with the flow. Wherever society goes, they're going to follow it. You know that age-old phrase, well, if your friends walk off a cliff, are you going to walk off the cliff with them? It's exactly that.
But the fact of the matter is, people use that statement, they use that phrase to say, well, you wouldn't do that. But here, now, today, in fact, the answer to that question would be yes. If all my friends, if all the people who accepted who I am walked off a bridge, I would have to, because they would deny me. That's the mentality.
And then the other reason why this Overton window shifts is that a lot of people have created their own standards for morality. So now we're left with your definition of good versus their definition of good.
So now we're going to tie in, well, it has to be God, because otherwise there's no other way to determine what's good or not.
So unless you can point me to a sole authoritative figure within the LGBTQIA community who establishes the moral codes of this community, then you're left with a civilization of people doing their own thing.
Okay, I'm with that. And that's why, despite the fact that I'm an atheist who has very high regard for Christian values, I don't think that pushing Christianity specifically, or religion specifically, is any different than pushing gender ideology. It's just a better ideology, but it's still dogmatic, and any dogmatic ideology is going to have its problems because you can't question the parts that don't make sense.
Based on the standards that most people have subscribed to in regards to propping up homosexuality as something that's normal, have been used for the trans and the queer and all the other stuff people are complaining about. It's the same exact standard, but just a different application. And this is why it's so important to, again, not only know where your moral groundings come from, but also understand how to think critically about these standards to know if it's actually something good.
So know where your morals come from and be able to determine if they are good or not. When you think dogmatically, whether it's in religion or in gender ideology, you can't do both. You might know where your beliefs come from, but you can't question them. So by your own admission, by your own standards, Christianity is not something that you should follow. Because while you may be able to ask questions, at the end of the day, you can't get to a point where it's going to be accepted within, the Overton window of Christianity that I don't believe in God, I don't believe in the Bible, that's not Christianity. And so just like the idea that a man can transform into a female, the idea that you can't be a moral person without believing in God is dogmatic and harmful to our country. So you guys can definitely go check out the rest of the video. Should make some other points in there as well, but that's really the part that I wanted to point out because, this is a message that I really want to push to people that I don't feel like get it enough. And I think I really appreciate Gothix's work, and I would love to have a conversation with her if somebody wants to tag her and let her know. But I just want to push this message out there that, okay, I get it. I get it that, Christianity is great for some of you. But I spent my life trying to be a good Christian, and I simply do not have the belief, and belief is not a choice. If you think it is, try to stop believing in God right now. Did it work? Of course not. It works exactly the other way. You can't choose to believe in something you don't believe in any more than you can choose to not believe in something you do believe in. And so because that is the case, the people who don't go to, the standard religions will end up in these secular religions. And if we don't actually form those secular religions into a moral framework that we like as Americans, then it's going to be the debauchery that you see. Agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, guys. Once again, I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, I am out of here. Peace.